or nay when we're having an actual discussion.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I apologize for the delay. We will now call the monthly board meeting of the Washington County Board of Supervisors in order. And if I could ask us to be started with a prayer from Supervisor Clary.
Dear Father, please let us take a moment to give thanks to the farmers and the essential workers, the schools. It's so nice to see the kids, actually going to school, happy and smiling and jumping from back to outside because they actually serve you. But in the meantime, please be with us, communities and families, firefighters out on the West Coast and then the southern states. There's so much going on here. So remember to keep our hearts in the game, each on, look out for each other, and be thankful for the minutes that we have that includes you, the meeting of the county, and the community. Amen.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In case of fire or other emergency, there's 3 exits in this room, there, and there. In case of that emergency, please proceed to the nearest exit. Find the nearest stairway, go down the stairs, clear the building, and move as far away from the building as you can. The rescue squads and emergency people can do their job. If you need assistance, please reach out for help. For this meeting, please silence your cell phones. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor O'Brien. We will now do the roll call.
Mr. Hankey.
Here.
Mrs. Fedler.
Here.
Mr. Ferguson.
Here.
Mr. Shaw.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Losaw.
Here.
Mr. Hicks.
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Half.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Skelly.
Here.
Mr. Hogan.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mrs. Clary. Here. Mr. Griffith.
Here.
Mr. Roselle.
Here.
Okay, at this point in time, we have a very special presentation to be made. It's the recognition of Washington County achieving New York State Emergency Management Accreditation. And with us today, we have the General Patrick Murphy, the Commissioner of the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, the Executive Department Director of the same organization, Matt Franklin, and Amy Drexel with the NSEMAA representative. And could I ask them and Tim and Glenn to come forward, please, for the presentation? And Supervisor Ward, would you join them, please, as Chairman of the Public Safety Committee?
Are we good?
You're good.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Chairman, for this. And this I don't have the opportunity to talk to everybody on a routine basis, but I have 2 great partners that I talk to every week for the last I don't know how long we've been doing this now. I guess probably 4 months now. I guess we're moving through it, but. Chairman Hall and Bob Hank have just been super partners. We run the control room for the Capital District, is the 8 counties, basically from here down through Greenland and Columbia, and we monitor the pandemic infection and severity, try to deal with issues that you all are dealing with every day, and it's been sometimes they're a challenge, but if we all work together, we get there. And in the end, and Washington County, I got to say, has just been a tremendous partner all the way through that. And I repeatedly, and they'll attest to this, in our control room calls, I tell them if you want to go to a safe place to live, come on up to Washington County, because your numbers are are watched and maintained at a really, reasonable level for where we are today. So thanks to both of you for your partnership in that. Today, we get the opportunity to present, a great team, a plaque, the certification of, emergency management. This has been a program that's been going on for a couple years now, directed by the governor, but developed by Terry Hastings and Fraser and Matt. The folks on his team have been working with this accreditation, but it's in conjunction with the State Emergency Managers Association, and they are just tremendous teammates with us to make this all happen. Washington County is the 11th county out of the 62 to be accredited over this period of time, which is an incredible accomplishment because there's 21 criteria that are required, the standards to be met or best practices as part of that, and if you don't check all the blocks and have everything in place, you just don't get there. And so the council that supports this evaluates it and then awards based on merit, and really that's where we are. The merit of the program and the work done by Tim and Glenn and everyone in the group. Primarily Tim, we'll give most of the credit to the pen writers and stuff too, but at the same time, everybody it's a team effort here, because you can't do it without the team. And so I'd like to be able to present the plaque that acknowledges this, and the plaque reads, Washington County Department of Public Safety has demonstrated excellence and professionalism in the field of emergency management by meeting the standards established by the New York State Emergency Management Accreditation Council. The council is therefore proud to recognize and award accreditation for the 5-year period beginning in August of 2020. And so we really, it's a phenomenal accomplishment. So we want to say thanks and best of. Okay. I want to make sure we get everything time.
So because this is a collaborative effort, as Commissioner Murphy mentioned, between New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services and NYSEMA, which is the State Emergency Management Association, we get a chance to get up here and give kudos to Glenn and Tim, and we can't forget Angela back there either for all of her work doing this. You can't get to this level without a very high level of coordination, collaboration, and communication. And in addition to being a representative of NYSEMA, I also work right over the border in Warren County. And when it comes to communication, collaboration, and coordination, I can fully attest that this team here does that. There is not a week that goes by that we are not calling each other's offices and doing that communication and that coordination and collaboration. And there are many of our plans that we have done together. And when it comes to training, very often we co-host things because we're trying to get into the community as much as possible. And we realize when we have small communities that we need to work together. So kudos to everyone. And I also want to say that you guys did it in the middle of COVID. When everyone was so busy, as we all know, they still were pushing forward through this. So very, very impressive. Good job, Glenn and your team.
Okay, and Glenn, obviously, and Tim, Matt Franklin is a key part of that with our Office of Emergency Management and working with the policy guys too. So,
thank you, sir. It's we're proud that we were able to accomplish it, and it wouldn't be without the teamwork between Warren County and our regional staff, Dan and Amy, Matt and his team. We have an excellent team in Washington County, and I'm very proud of it and the job that they do day in and day out. Thank you.
and we would say Warren County is one of these certified as well. So. Chairman, thank you for the time.
Thank you, General. Appreciate it.
I'll look forward to
Everybody.
talking to you later today.
Thank you. You sure will.
Yeah, thank you for.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe journey back.
Sam,
Yes,
I'd like to
Supervisor
thank the
Campbell.
commissioner. He was a great choice to run the control room, and, really appreciate it. I've had the pleasure of being with Sam and listening to some of the calls, and you've done an excellent job, and, really appreciate it. You're a great choice.
All right, well, I'm hoping that, and again, as Glenda said, it's a team effort, and,
Well, that's
we
what's
know
important.
when a couple people spin off in another direction, it's not necessarily helpful, but you guys just.
Well, we're aware of that here as a board of supervisors, too, so.
Thank you, sir.
We're all used to that.
Appreciate it.
And not
Thank you,
to
Carol.
steal the thunder of our public safety group, because they're an excellent group, and we appreciate them more than they know.
All right, condensed minutes. The condensed minutes from the August 21st, 2020 meeting are accepted as mailed unless there are any additions or corrections. Any additions or corrections out there? Seeing none, they're accepted. Communications, Debbie has
For
communications?
communications from Warren County, we are in receipt of their resolutions number 292, appointing member of the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corps. Resolution number 294, approving the Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board 2020 budget. And resolution number 302, adopting and approving Adirondack Community College operating budget for fiscal year 2020-21. You also received correspondence from a town of Fort Edward resident regarding a proposed solar project. That's all I have for communications.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on any of the communications? All right. I had Tim on to do, the report on COVID next, but we'll move down to committee reports, audit report.
Mr. Chairman, I move the audit report be, accepted by the board.
Do we have a second? We have a motion, we have a second. Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Ward, and I believe that's it. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We will now move back up for our COVID-19 update from Tim.
All right, good morning, everybody. Just run through the updates real quick on coronavirus.
I'm not gonna talk, I'll take that one. Here. Gonna try this the easier way, but it didn't work. All right, so just running down through the updates this morning for COVID-19 and the status in the county. We still operate our daily updates on the county website, washingtoncountyny.gov/coronavirus, which includes all of our updated statistics, any operational changes to county departments, sign up for our daily newsletter and important community information, and our links to the latest up-to-date information from the CDC and New York State Department of Health. So we know that portions of the New York pause remain in effect, including reopening regulations and the New York Forward regulations as far as any public operating businesses, gyms, anything like that. So obviously last week, or within the last 2 weeks, all of our public schools are open and they're all utilizing a hybrid method depending on the grade level. We are continuing public health, public safety, and county administration are continuing to meet with our schools and do our partnership meetings, and they're being held regularly. We had another one yesterday, coordinating their COVID-19 response and preparation efforts. As you may know, medium risk sports in the leagues covering our area have all been postponed until the spring for any soccer or field hockey. To date, we've done 6 of the gym or fitness center compliance assistance process, which all went very well. They all had everything in place. We do have a couple others that are waiting to reopen, and they've been in contact with us, and when they're ready, they will undergo the same process. The state of emergency was renewed on September 8, 2020 for the county. The executive order from the chairman was last issued on the 28th, which remains in effect for 30 days unless rescinded sooner. And we're continuing distribution of hand sanitizer, cloth face coverings, and PPE for any first responder agencies in need. So if you have anyone in your communities who's in need of hand sanitizer or cloth face coverings, please reach out to us. We'll make arrangements to get them to them. Just some updated statistics. As of the close of business yesterday, Public Health had 174 persons under monitoring, 273 COVID-19 confirmed positives in the county. As of yesterday, 249 of which were recovered. We do not have anybody hospitalized currently, and the deceased number remains at 13, thankfully. And we're up to 2,373 released out of the program. We broke this down. Formerly, we were doing this twice a week every time we were doing our local officials calls, so I broke it down so it's just weekly now, so I could actually fit everything on one page, and you can follow the chart where we've been since we started monitoring this back in early March, March 13th, until this week. And that just gives you the chart of all of our persons under monitoring, our COVID-19 positives, hospitalizations, and deaths. And you can see since our last board meeting, we've had a jump of over 10 positives, most of which were community cases. One of the things that has come to light recently is some questions regarding how contact tracing and those kind of things are conducted. So working with Public Health, we just put out a little publication the other day that basically just explained that when a public health investigation commences of a potential positive, either a confirmed COVID-19 positive or a person under investigation, our nurses work very hard trying to track people down. So it's very important we get accurate information from the positive of who they've been in contact with, where they've been. So the schools actually have been an excellent key partner in this. They're doing an excellent job in student monitoring as far as transportation, what classrooms they're in, and that's going to play a very important role as we move forward with schools being open. So when they come in contact with that, they basically will obtain all of that information from the positive. They upload all that into their system, and then the contact tracing begins from there, which typically is going to be done by phone. So you're either going to see the New York State contact tracing number pop up, or you're going to see Washington County pop up with the 518-746-2400. The biggest thing that we ask everybody in the community is please, if you see those pop up on your phone, please answer those calls. They're very important. They will keep trying to get a hold of you, but obviously they're just trying to make sure that you're notified that you were involved in a potential public health investigation and whether or not you need to be quarantined or isolated. So it's very important. Our nurses and the contact tracing staff are working very hard to make sure they're doing this as quickly as possible, but answering the phone is the key to that. And we just ask that everybody continue to help keep our communities healthy and safe. Stay home if you don't feel well. Social distance, keep at least 6 feet between you and others. Wash your hands often and mask up when you're out in public. And we have to get our shameless plug in there since I got 2 minutes. That September is National Preparedness Month. So please make sure you have a plan, build your kit, and stay informed. There's the link there that you can sign up for our emergency notifications in the county. That's very important. So if we have an emergency situation, be it a flood, major fire, any kind of evacuation or anything like that, we're always pushing that information out. So I appreciate if anybody has any questions, I will answer them.
Tim, I would just like you to take a minute and comment, if you would, on the complexity of Department of Health in getting the actual tracing done. The supervisors may be approached out there from people in their community saying, how come it's not roam responsive or whatever the case may be. We know that not to be the case, but kind of explain to them some of the complexities of it.
Sure. So obviously we had our first school case in the last week or so, which we had 2 positives come out of the school case. One had been in school, one had not yet been to school. However, there were multiple community contacts, not only including the one that had been to school and anybody they were in contact with in the school itself, but outside in the community, be it a daycare, be it any other friends or anything they met with. So identifying the school ones were very easy. The school partners are absolutely excellent at tracking that. We really have to give a lot of credit to the schools that have really stepped forward and put together some really great plans, worked with us all along the way. Public Health, I mean, we're on the phone with them all the time. Public Health has just been amazing. So when they undertake those lists that they obtain, and then they have to ask questions of every single one of those contacts. Who else have you been in contact with? Because there's always that level of someone you don't know about. Where else have they been? Any public places? Those kind of things. The idea is making sure they get enough information that they can identify everybody potentially that they've been exposed to. So in the one case, I believe there was over 45 contacts alone from one person. So those are all 45 phone calls that Public Health or the contact tracing team has to make individually to make sure that they're tracking those people down to assess their level of exposure to COVID-19, to the positive or the PUI. So you multiply that times however many positives you have out there on top of what they're doing with the daily check-ins. But the public health investigation part is very consuming, especially now that people are out moving a little bit more, schools are reopened. It just opens up that level. Before, when everything was kind of in the midst of a shutdown, it was a little bit easier to conduct that because they weren't having contact with so many people. So now that as we're out moving a lot more, it takes a lot more time. But I can't say enough. Public health is still working extremely hard. They're here late every night. They're still on-call is full every single weekend, tracking these things, making sure that they're monitoring all the results coming back. So they're absolutely doing an amazing job.
Any questions of Tim? Seeing none, thank you, Tim. We appreciate your report as usual. Now we move on to the proclamation, the October Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We've all had the opportunity to read the proclamation. If there's any questions on it, we'll certainly entertain those. But I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Roger and Karen Pratt for the excellent job they do on protecting our internet and our emails and our security of our electronic emails. So thank you very much for what you do, Roger, and relay that to Karen in case she's not listening, please.
I'll do that.
Okay. Supervisor's privilege of the floor. I'll start off with, I see Assemblyman Dan Steck there. Dan, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I sure would. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chairman. I hope everyone's well and heading into a good weekend. Not a lot has changed in the last month since I last addressed you all. We are still waiting for the federal government to come to an agreement on whatever legislation they're going to do for funding for stimulus for the rest of the states and local governments. You've all been following it, I'm sure. We're waiting to see what comes from that so that we can react to that and go back into session and address things like school aid and aid to municipalities. So we're still waiting on that. I talked to our Congresswoman a couple times last week, and I know that they are back in session now, and they're going to be in session for the next 3 weeks. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will get some movement there, and then Albany will be able to react to whatever comes out of Washington. Other than that, the other thing that's changed recently, a couple days ago, the governor made an announcement on change to the rules in nursing home visitations. I know that's something that's important to a lot of our constituents. And the good news is that he made the wait period for a nursing home to not have any cases shorter from 28 days to 14 days, and that went into effect yesterday. But one of the things that we're starting to field calls here on in my office, and I want to just alert you in case you haven't yet, you may get them, and I want you to know we're aware, but by all means, send them my way, send them to Senator Little's way as well. People are saying that in order to go visit somebody, you have to get a test. And if you're asymptomatic, you can't get a test. So problem, clearly. And we've reached out to the governor's office and made sure that they're aware of this issue. They are now. I haven't gotten a response yet as to, what's going to happen or how we're going to get people that want to go visit their loved ones in a nursing home these tests that they need. But certainly it's an issue now. We're making progress in a sense that at least people are being given a better opportunity to go visit, but testing remains an issue. So if you get those calls, I want you to be aware of that. And certainly if you want to, you can always forward them to my office, and we'll be happy to talk to them and try to work on it with them. So that's really all I have to update you guys on. And if there's any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions, Assemblyman?
I have a question.
Yes, Paul. Supervisor Ferguson.
Yes, Mr. Dansteck. In the past meetings, we had spoken about internet service in Dresden. Dana Half have stated, what if we got a natural emergency or a natural disaster? We had a disaster in Whitehall.
Right, I recall.
We no longer have high school usage right now. My Dresden kids do not have internet service. They have to be bused to the school and sit in an auditorium and listen to. They have to listen. They have to go on the internet there. Is there any way we could get emergency services in Dresden so that we could have internet right away for these children.
Right. Well, I believe you asked that question a month ago. We forwarded that suggestion along. I think it's simply a matter of supply and demand. There's far too much demand and not enough supply to bring any emergency equipment anywhere to provide internet service. You know, it's frustrating, I know, and we forwarded it along, but unfortunately, the answer that we've gotten right now is that there's nothing coming immediately. So, you know, it's not a great answer, but that is the answer today, is the same as it was a month ago.
Okay, I'm being told that the permits for the poles are being put off by the state. The state is not putting out permits for the poles fast.
Well, that's not emergency services. That is the build out of the broadband. And again, that's been an issue. That's been an ongoing issue for a long time that we've been working on. And again, the governor and the broadband office are working to make ready with all of our utilities, and it's very frustrating.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Griffith.
Dan, thank you very much. I wanted to piggyback on Paul's speaking about the internet there. There's been an increase in the issues with logging on to Zoom with much of our schools. So as much as you're pushing forth on the internet capability, you can actually see it today on our meeting right here. There's some wonkiness, and we actually approved budgeting to increase our Zoom capabilities. But as a result of everybody across the country logging on, I'm sure you've heard this, previously. If you could address that as part of the internet capability issues as well, please.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I mean, again, the system was not built to have everyone in the country on simultaneously, and unfortunately, because of COVID, that's what we're trying to do right now. So imagine trying to replace the entire country's water pipe system simultaneously because everyone needed to quadruple their amount of water that they're using. It's a daunting task, and it's frustrating, I know, but I think we need to be prepared for, you go to battle with the army you have, not the army you wish you'd have. And we're going to keep slugging forward, but it's not going to change in the next 60 days.
Supervisor Half, did I see you have a question? Your yellow one on your light there and your frame around your picture.
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Supervisor Campbell.
Yeah, Dan, a couple of things came up in the past month here. First of all, the governor's shared services plan, the money got cut there, and Excelsior money to the college also got suspended, and maybe the shared services is just suspended. I don't know which way it really is, but these are flagship things that the governor wanted, was free tuition for all and shared services. And it's funny how when you reprioritize things and what's important, the first thing to leave is the things you couldn't afford to begin with. But is this going to affect the students directly? Will they eventually see their credit that they were getting through the Excelsior program that they'll have to pay? Or is this just going to be slowed payments getting to the college, or will the college never see them? Those are big issues in our county because, one, we had a property reval under shared services. It was a big amount of money that we're on the hook for $150,000 without the state money coming through, and it would have been over $500,000 if we had stopped. And then, of course, with the college, I mean, the two counties fund the college, and if they don't get their Excelsior money, even though that's a reduced rate that they surely don't get rich on either, it helps them survive. But now you got the government, they weren't funding at the ability and the level that the state was supposed to do to begin with. Then they came through with free tuition, and now that's even gone by the wayside. It's just done more harm than if they'd never had the program. So if you could look into that, I'm sure you probably don't have the full answers right now, but if you can look into that and see if any of that money, whether shared services or college money, is going to come in the near future, that would be greatly appreciated.
All right, well, I'm not sure if I heard a question in there, but I think the gist of it is as the state started the year with a $6 billion budget gap and is now at $14 billion, is the state likely to ever come through with the money that it's already pledged that everyone and their brother has budgeted in their school budgets or in their county budgets or their local government budgets? That is the $14 billion question. So I don't think anyone has that answer right now. I think the governor is banking on the federal government riding over the ridge to the rescue with, tens of billions of dollars of aid. That's what he's asked for. If that happens, then I think there's a decent chance that these payments will just be delayed and caught up. If that doesn't happen, then I think there's an excellent chance that these cuts are permanent and never made up. I mean, that's essentially what happened to schools years ago when they instituted some of the gap elimination, cuts that they did. And a decade later, they finally did catch up to that. But depending on who you ask, there's people that did the math that said, well, we were never made whole. We were shorted. So that's our past experience, with budget gaps in the state budget. So the short answer is I don't think anyone knows right now, or if they do, they're not telling the rest of us what the long-term plan is to catch up on any of these programs, including this Excelsior Scholarship Program.
Okay, so if it's suspended, that's one thing, but if it's permanent, we have to quit crediting students, and that's going to cost more money and more headache than if they'd ever started it to begin with. So that's a big concern, and so is the shared services, because we got us all headed down this path, and then that money dries up, and what did we get down the path for? It wasn't like we weren't frugal and saving money as it was and working together. So just wanted to run those things up the pole and see where we're at, but appreciate it, Dan, as always.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Any other questions for the Assemblyman? Yes, Supervisor Rozell.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to change routes here and give Dan thank you for coming up to Whitehall here when we had the flood and doing what you could do to help us out and the school out. Thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome, John. And again, it was amazing to see what a hard rainstorm could hammer just one town as hard as it did. And I felt for your Main Street area and your municipal buildings there. And certainly, I think the worst hit of all, at least the most expensive single hit, was the school. And I know that Pat D, the school superintendent, is at wit's end. Again, like a homeowner's, right, or car insurance. Everyone always says you never know how good your insurance is until you file a claim. And Washington County and specifically Whitehall, school district is struggling right now. Is this an act of God? Is this failed drains? Is this flooding? Depending on what the cause is determined is going to determine how much they're covered. But I felt absolutely terrible for, they're in the wrapping up a $19 million capital improvement to the high school, and to have most of that work ruined and then some. I thought that I felt awful for the school superintendent, just on top of everything we got going on with COVID and just all the pressures that all the schools are going through, with whether it's money from the state or how to safely reopen and all the anxiety that school kids and parents and teachers have. And then you throw into that, a deluge. Your town took a right cross to the jaw with that storm the other day. And I'm glad that our Congresswoman was there. So we had representation from the entire gamut. Senator Little was there as well later that day. And, we're all asking the questions and we're tracking this closely for you. And I know that Tim Hardy and your emergency service office did a great job as well. And as a matter of fact, I want to congratulate them for their accreditation that they received. I entered your meeting just as you were recognizing that accomplishment, and they're the 11th county. I think you're the 11th county to achieve that accreditation. So congratulations to all of you for doing that. That's important stuff too. Thanks, John.
Any other questions for the Assemblyman? If not, thank you, Dan. We appreciate your joining us again today. And was there anyone else that had
have a nice weekend.
Anyone else with supervisor's privilege of the floor? Seeing none, we will move on to the resolutions.
Resolution number 208 by Supervisor Hall, titled Appointing Member of the Counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency and Civic Development Corporation.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Supervisor Hicks, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Griffith. Did I miss any? Okay, is there any discussion? You take a roll call, please. Mr. Half, I'm sorry.
Is there a name associated with this?
Mr. Grasso, Michael J. Grasso.
Thank you. More discussion?
Any other discussion? Yes. Go ahead, Dana.
Since I'm the one that brought forward Travis Whitehead a few months ago and it was shot down because the rules were not suspended, I'd like to have a comment. I'm sure Mr. Grasso is a very nice gentleman, but I don't want to be an accessory to the dirty sausage making going on over in Warren County. So I'm going to vote no.
Okay. Supervisor Griffith.
I'd like to respond to Mr. Haff on that. We've had an abundance of conversation with regards to the IDA recently about topics involving home rule. This is Warren County selection, and we are certainly would not want them partnering and interfering in a questioning a selection that we would make at our county. So from that perspective, and I think Mr. Haff has used home rule quite a bit in his dialogue recently in regards to the IDA. That's my statement.
I'd like to respond, Sam.
Sure.
Warren County absolutely should question who we bring forward. This is a joint IDA. That means we both are equally responsible. The members that Warren County nominate are equally responsible to Washington County and vice versa. If they want to question one of our candidates, they absolutely should. That's their duty. They need to do that. That is why this is part of our home rule, because it is joint. I think a lot of people don't understand what that word means, joint. We are equal partners in this. So it's not them and us. We're all in the same boat as to who these members are. So absolutely, they should question us. And if we nominate somebody that they have a problem with, they should bring that forward.
Supervisor Shaw.
Mr. Chairman, maybe this question been asked and I don't remember. Since it's a joint venture, IDA venture between the two counties, can we only nominate still from our county, or can it be nominated, a member be nominated from either county? And more for Roger, that question. I'm just curious.
And the answer is you could nominate somebody from a different county.
Okay.
It has to pass both counties.
Right.
Mr. Haff is correct in his characterization. That's why we're voting on for instance, quotation marks, Warren County folks. And that's why they vote on the quotation marks, Washington County folks, because everybody on that board has to be approved by both counties. If it was a single, in other words, if they got 5 and we got 5, we would only vote on our 5, kind of like trustees on Adirondack Community College. We have our trustee, we send them.
So with that being said, if there was a vacancy on the IDA when somebody resigns or retires or what, either county can make a nomination at that time. I know courtesy's always been if the candidate that resigned was from whatever county they got to nominate, but that is just something that we've been practicing and not something that is necessarily something that we have to. So what Mr. Haff is saying is, what he did was actually within our right and responsibility to come up with a name, and that was the name he proposed.
That was the name he proposed.
Okay, thank you.
But in that case, it would have filled the, quote, a Warren County slot, unquote.
Right. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead with the vote.
Mr. Hanky?
Yes.
Mrs. Sedler?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Losaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Haff?
No.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Skelly?
Yes.
Mr. Hogan?
No.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Clary? Yes. Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
Mr. Rozell?
You're muted, John.
No.
resolution is adopted, 3,020 yes, 1,240 no. Resolution number 210 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, O'Brien, Skelly, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, buildings and grounds, and information technology.
I was gonna move 209 first, Debbie. We wanna go to 210?
Oh, I'm sorry, I went right over 209.
Okay, so I'm gonna move 209, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
I'll second it to get started.
I was just waiting for Deb to get out there.
Which one, Rick?
209.
Yeah, I skipped over it.
We're good. No problem.
I don't have, there's nothing.
Oh, did you want to read it or no?
Oh. Resolution 209 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, O'Brien, Skelly, Clary, title amend employee handbook for remote work policy.
We have a motion. We have a second. We had Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Fedler. Okay. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Now, Resolution 210 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, O'Brien, Skelly, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, buildings and grounds, and information technology.
Mr. Chairman,
Do
moving resolution 210.
we have a motion? Do we have seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 211 by Supervisors Ward, Hogan, Hicks, O'Brien, Clary, title to waive requirements of Executive Law, Section 381, and assume responsibility for code enforcement in the town of Cambridge effective immediately.
Mr. Supervisor, moving resolution 211 forward.
We have a motion by Mr. Ward. Do we have seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Wilson. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 212 by Supervisors Hicks, Ward, Skelly, Clary, title amend staffing pattern, code enforcement.
We have a motion
Mr. Chairman, moving 212.
by Supervisor Hicks. Do we have seconds? Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Campbell, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Hicks, Supervisor Henke. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, whoop, oh, sorry, Dana, I missed you. Apologize.
This is for one additional person. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor, I'm sorry, did we vote on that, or did the discussion come afterwards, Dana? I go too fast? We didn't vote, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 213 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Feather, Skelly, Clary, Roselle, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to approve sale of land, Village of Hudson Falls.
Moving resolution 213.
I have a motion by Supervisor Campbell, second Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Roselle, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Griffith. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. That's a roll call. Yeah, sorry, it's a roll call. I apologize. Turned my page too quick.
Mr. Hanky?
Yes.
Ms. Fedler?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Losaw?
Yes.
Mr. Hicks?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Half?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Skelly?
Yes.
Mr. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
Mr. Rozell?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted, 4,260 yes. Resolution number 214 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Feather, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to authorize the cancellation and exemption of a certain parcel located in the town of Salem from taxation pursuant to real property tax law, Article 11, Section 1138.
Moving resolution 214.
Mr. Campbell moves it. Do we have seconds?
Second.
Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Rozell, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor O'Brien. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, Supervisor Wilson.
What makes it impractical to enforce, I guess? I'm not quite certain there. And I missed the committee meeting discussion on this.
Yes, Treasurer Lonette.
So this particular parcel was a parcel number that was assigned to a trailer in a trailer park. So they do that so that the inhabitants of the trailer can get their star exemptions. However, since it's the trailer and not the land, we can't enforce on the trailer, so there's no practical way to enforce our lien.
Thank you, Al. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 215 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to authorize chairman to sign contracts with various municipalities for the provision of assessing and data collecting services.
We have a motion.
Moving resolution 215.
Supervisor Campbell, do we have seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith. And I believe that's it. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 216 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to accept payment of returned village taxes.
Moving resolution 216.
Supervisor Campbell makes the motion. Second. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith. Anyone else? See no further seconds. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 217 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to accept payment of returned school taxes.
Moving resolution 217.
We have a motion moved. Seconds. Supervisor Ward, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith. Any others? Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 218 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losaw, Ward, Griffith, title to authorize interfund loan to capital project number 128 Marchicelli Grant Project.
Moving resolution 218.
Supervisor Campbell, we have seconds. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losaw, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Skelly, Supervisor Fedler. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 219 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, LoSalle Ward, Griffith Title, amend Sewer District Number 2 budget for phones and fuel.
Moving resolution number 219.
Do we have a second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Fedler. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 220 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Roselle, LoSalle Ward, title amend budget, capital project number 125 for Burgoyne Avenue Roof Engineering.
Moving resolution number 220.
Supervisor Campbell moves it. Do we have a second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor LoSalle, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith. Seeing no other seconds. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 221 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Roselle, LoSalle Ward, Griffith, title to amend capital project number 81, County Route 10 Bridge over Pulteney River for Marchicelli Supplemental Aid number 5.
Moving resolution 221.
We have a motion moved. Seconds? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor LoSalle, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Fedler. See no other seconds. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 222 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Roselle, LoSalle Ward, Griffith, title amend public safety budget for FY 2020 Emergency Management Performance Grant.
Moving resolution 222.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Seconds? Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor LoSalle, Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Griffith. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 223 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Roselle, LoSalle Ward, Griffith, title amend the non-union title by grade schedule for electronic technician.
Moving resolution 223.
Moved by Supervisor Campbell. Second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Fedler. Any discussion? So roll call, please.
Mr. Henke.
Yes.
Mrs. Fedler.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. LoSalle.
Yes.
Mr. Hicks.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Half.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Skelly.
Yes.
Mr. Hogan.
Yes.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes.
Mrs. Clary. Mr. Griffith.
Yes.
Mr. Rozell.
I believe Mr. Rozell has left. He had a doctor's appointment.
The resolution is adopted, 3,966 yes, 294 absent. Resolution number 224 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Roselle, LoSalle Ward, Griffith, title to amend the non-union title by grade schedule to establish pay rates for special patrol officers.
Moving resolution 224.
We have a second. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor LoSalle, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Griffith, and Supervisor Fedler. Supervisor LoSalle, was that a second, or that was a second, okay. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, signal saying aye.
This now the roll.
Roll call. Roll call. Hold on, sorry.
Mr. Henke.
Yes.
Mrs. Fedler.
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes.
Mr. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. LoSalle.
Yes.
Mr. Hicks.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien.
Yes.
Mr. Half.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Skelly.
Yes.
Mr. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Clary?
Yes.
Mr. Griffith?
Yes.
Mr. Rozell is absent. The resolution is adopted, 3,966 yes, 294 absent. Resolution number 225 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losall, Ward, Griffith, titled to authorize chairman to sign letter of agreement for autopsy and morgue services for 2020, 2021, and future years, subject to appropriations therefore.
Moving resolution 225.
Second. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losall, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Fedler. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 226 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Fedler, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losall, Ward, Griffith, titled to amend 2020 budget to reflect cost-saving measures implemented in response to COVID-19 pandemic.
Moving resolution number 226.
Seconds, please. Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losall, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Fedler. Any discussion? Supervisor Hogan.
So I apologize, the system just dropped off. We are on resolution number 226, correct?
Yes, sir.
Brian, on the first 9 lines of the regular, it looks like there's reductions in regular earnings. I apologize for missing the finance meeting, as you know, I was out of town. How did we come to those figures that the appropriation's been decreased?
I'm having trouble hearing you, Dana. Which one are you on? Which line?
The first 9 lines, we have regular earnings, outside services, overtime earnings. How did we come to those figures of reductions in earnings?
Some positions aren't filled. So, some people weren't in because we weren't doing work.
Okay.
And the worst part is some of that money has to go back in next year's budget. But I think hats off to the department heads because they really made this all work. And when you see what they've asked for in next year's budget, you'll realize how much real work they did. And really appreciate everything they've asked for. And I think they've done an excellent job. And it shows in this resolution and it will show in the requests.
Okay, thank
Any
you.
Any other discussion? Supervisor O'Brien.
So this was done with department heads, right, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 227 by Supervisors Campbell, O'Brien, Hicks, Feather, Skelly, Clary, Rozell, Losall, Ward, Griffith, titled to waive building and demolition permit fees for work performed in response to damage caused by August 24th, 2020 flooding event in the town and village of Whitehall.
Moving resolution number 227.
Do we have a second? Supervisor Henke, Supervisor Losall, Supervisor Ward, Supervisor O'Brien, Supervisor Clary, Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Ferguson, Supervisor Wilson. Any discussion? Yes, Supervisor Hicks.
As I recall in committee, I think we talked about a sunset timetable on this, didn't we? I didn't see it in the resolution. It's not open-ended, is it?
Says it right here, by September 30th.
By September 30th.
In the first resolve, Mr. Hicks.
I guess if I could read, I wouldn't raise my hand. All right, thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Not a problem. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. We now move on to supervisors' comments. Do we have any comments from supervisors? Let's start with Supervisor O'Brien.
So on public safety, getting accreditation, I think that, I'm not sure when either Tim or Glenn sleeps, because not only put a back day here, they may be called out at any time of the night for any other emergencies or fires or situations, and I think we are extremely lucky to have people so dedicated. And thankfully, they don't need sleep, it looks like, but they put a lot of effort in, and I think it shows from everything they've done over the past 6 months, and beyond. The past 6 months really has been demanding because of COVID responses, and any other emergencies come out there, so I think we owe them every debt in the world for what they do, and we don't thank them enough. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Fedler.
This past week, my predecessor, Beaver Watkins, passed away. I'd just like to express condolences to their family.
Thank you, Cassie. I saw another hand up here. Who was that? Was it though? Yeah, Supervisor Campbell.
So a couple of things. That's my question to Dan Stuck about shared services. Laura Chadwick isn't with us today, but she does thank you for support and patience, and let me know that that grant is back on, and she has sent the email to the supervisors in the towns that are involved in the last hour, so that got approved. So our shared services grant is back for doing the reval. So all good news. Hope Dan isn't searching too hard for that information right now. Glad I brought it up because at least we got an answer. Budget meetings are going to start this next week on Tuesday with regular committees. I'm hoping everyone's going to be in person. Dana Hogan's already informed me that he's under quarantine from his trip back from Utah, so he won't be available on Tuesday. So all our booklets will be available for us on Tuesday at the meeting. We'll try to, anybody that can only go on by Zoom, we'll try to get them the department stuff just for GovOps and Ag Planning for that day, and then we can mail them their booklet if they can't come in and get them. But other than that, everything will be here on Tuesday. I don't know if we're meeting in the training room or if we're meeting here, how we're going to do that yet. Chris, have you come up with?
We're still working on it.
Okay. I think just plexiglass between us would work, but I don't know.
Brian, I would just like to add to that. None of the supervisors, none of us should feel pressured to come in if we're uncomfortable coming in, okay?
No.
So let's get that right up front. If you feel that there's a reason that you don't want to come in, please feel we will have it Zoomed. We can still meet in that manner, provide you with the documentation and things that you need. Quite frankly, I'm a little uncomfortable with everyone coming in because the bottom line is real simple. If we're all in one area together, and we talked about it earlier, on the coordination and contacting individuals that have been exposed, if one of us goes down with it and we're all here, we're all going to go down with it. So think carefully about the impacts it could have on your town, on your families, and everything else that's involved with this. So I know that the budget officer would like to have everybody here, and he's pressing hard for that. But I think we need to keep the overall picture in mind. And if you're uncomfortable with it, and it doesn't make sense to you, then please Zoom in, and we can do it from there. We'll make sure you have the handouts and stuff that you need to follow along. Yes, Supervisor Haft.
Question for Brian. Brian, you mentioned the booklet will be available at the Government Ops Committee. Is this the full 94-page booklet or just?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. But if somebody's just going to Zoom in, because it would be so many pages and a lot of people can't download them at home, we'll probably send just the one for Government Ops and Ag Planning electronically to start with. And then that gives us time to mail everybody theirs that can't pick them up on Tuesday.
Well, quite often we will see in the Zoom that there'll be a document displayed for us to read. Could that be done with that particular page? Each page that we're discussing could be, I don't know how you do,
that.
The
problem with that is seeing anybody that's got their hand up when there's a page there because there's 17 of us.
Okay.
So that's kind of why I'm looking at it that way. And the other thing is we're going to try starting times at 9:30 just so that we don't have time constraints and we can get through everything. Because I don't think it's going to be a long process this first time through. but, give an extra half hour so we can at least get a break for lunch on Tuesday, and we'll see how the rest of them set up and how busy they look as we go along.
I thought the budget officer bought lunch for us.
Okay.
You zoomed in, I couldn't.
Supposed to be here.
Is there any other supervisors' comments? Questions? If not, they'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I have one from Supervisor Wilson. Second, I have one for Supervisor Griffith, Supervisor Fedler, Supervisor Ferguson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much, and everybody be safe out there.